Hello everyone, my name is Jackie and today I'm finally here with my December wrap up for you guys. It took a while, but here we are. So I've read a total of 19 books in December, which is a lot, but I technically cheated just the tiniest bit. But who cares, let's get into the books I read in December. So the first book I read is The Loop by Ben Oliver. This is an art, so that's why the quote is on the front. This is about Luca, who was put into prison. It's called The Loop, and everyone in there is pretty much all alone, all confined, and it's impossible to break out because there's a sensor in his heart that will explode if he tries to. But then the power falls out and the only way to survive is if he breaks out. So this is set in a dystopian future where everything is controlled by an AI, and yeah, it is really interesting. I had this arc for a year and a half now and I never managed to get to it, so I finally read it at the end of 2020 and I'm really excited for the sequel because this was a really interesting book. Back when dystopia was a really big hype, I read a lot of them and none of them were actually quite like this one, so I'm really intrigued by this. I'm really excited for the second one and I gave it 4 stars. The next book I finished is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the first book in a new series by her and it's about 2 sisters, twins, and when one of them is murdered, the other calls a demon. And incidentally, the demon is one of the princes of hell, who are the most dangerous demons, especially to her family of witches. And it's absolutely amazing. I adore the characters. Yes, it's really great. I can't wait for the second one. Also, this is one of the prettiest books I own. I mean, look at this edges. And then under the dust jacket it looks like this. It's one of the prettiest books ever. So yeah, I really loved the book and I gave it 5 stars. Next I listened to the audiobook for Empire of Storms by Sarah J. Maas. This is the 5th? Yes, this is the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series. There are a lot of books, so it's sometimes difficult. And Throne of Glass follows Selena Sardovian, who is an assassin, and she gets a chance to escape prison by competing in a tournament to become the king's champion. That's how this whole series starts, but it's a lot bigger in the end. There's a lot going on. A lot of new characters come in the later books that I absolutely adore. So yeah, I definitely would recommend everyone read this series. And if you have, let me know down below if you one of the people who actually only enjoy the first couple of books or who love the last couple of books, because there are 2 groups of people and one half loves the first half of the series and the other loves the second half of the series, and it's actually really interesting. But I adore most of them, but I think I actually like the last couple of books even more, so I gave this 5 stars. So then I read Fangirl, the manga volume 1, which was adapted by Sam Max and illustrated by Gabby Nam, but the novel was written by Rainbow Rowell, so a lot of names. So this is the first part of the book that Rainbow Rowell wrote about Kath, who goes to college and is for the first time ever not together with her twin sister. And she's very anxious about it because she doesn't deal well with new situations or new people. So a very important part of her life are Simon and Baz from the fictive book series Simon's Gnome, which are loosely based on Harry Potter, and she writes fan fiction to them or about them, and it's really great. And yeah, it's just her starting college in this book and some scenes from Simon's Gnome and some from her fanfiction. And I really enjoyed it. I really like the drawing style also, and I'm excited for the second part. So I gave this 4 stars. So next I decided to read a couple of Christmas books because it was Christmas time. So the first book I read is Father Christmas Fake Beard by Terry Pratchett. This is the German edition, and those are actually a couple of short stories. Yeah, they were fun, hilarious, sometimes nonsensical. It's just Terry Pratchett. So, but while I actually think that's really funny, in short story format it's not quite my cup of tea, but I still had fun reading it, so in the end I gave it 3 stars. So the next book I read is by a German author, and there's no English translation yet. So it's Weihnachten auf der Lindwurmfeste by Walter Mörs. Yeah, I can't even translate it because it's just... Walter Mörs writes very funny fantasy stories, and this is his Christmas edition. It's actually a letter from a character from his books writing to another character from his books about this Christmas that they have at the place, but it's not actually Christmas. It's called Hamulimet, which is a very funny word, but it's very reminiscent of Christmas, and our main character really doesn't like this holiday, so he rants about it, but he also explained a lot, and he tells what parts he likes, and it was fun, but I think it would have been more fun if I actually had read any of his other books, so I gave it 3 stars. Alright, the next 3 books I'm talking about in one, because it's the Avatar: The Last Airbender North and South comics, part 1, 2 and 3. And in this installment there is a conflict between the water tribes in the north and in the south. And Sokka and Katara try to help, and they of course call Aang over there for help, and it's just another fun adventure, or not so fun at times, but mostly it's a lot of fun. And I adore Avatar, I adore the comics, so yeah, I gave those 4 stars each. So the next book I don't own a physical copy of because it wasn't mine when I read it, but that's The Grinch by Dr. Seuss, and I actually read it 3 times in December. Because I gifted this book to my little cousin for Christmas, and he made me read it to him 2 times on one day and then another time on another day. And yeah, but I needed more books to reach my goal, and also I really wanted to read The Grinch for a time now. I like Dr. Seuss books. I love the Grinch movie, so I wanted to count it. So yeah, so you probably all know it. The Grinch is this person who hates Christmas, and he tries to steal Christmas, and of course it's not working, but it's so cute and hilarious, and I like Dr. Seuss' writing style. And yeah, I just adored it, and I gave it 5 stars. So then I listened to the audiobook for Taraf Dawn by Sarah J. Maas, which is the 6th book in the Throne of Glass series. And this time we follow another character from the first couple of books called Kayol, who is the captain of the guard of the King of Ardalan. This is set during the same time as the 5th book, but it's set on another continent. And when I first heard about that, I wasn't so intrigued by it because he wasn't one character I wanted to know more of, and also the last book ended on a cliffhanger, and I really wanted to know what's going on with that, and I still had to wait for the last book. It was not fun. But then I picked it up and I ended up absolutely loving it. I love the characters that I practically didn't know in the first couple of books, but I got to know so well in this book. I adored them. I adored the new people we met and the new places we got to see, and it was just so amazing and so great, and I gave it 5 stars. All the Sarah J. Maas books are actually rereads. I think I forgot to mention that. Okay, the next 3 books I'm also going to talk about in one, because I can't give you a synopsis for all of them. So the first was Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan, followed by The 12 Days of Dash and Lily, and lastly Mind the Gap, Dash and Lily. This is a series of Christmas themed short books. The first one following Dash and Lily in New York, after Lily put a notebook in the Strand with some dares, and Dash finds them and follows them, and he writes her some dares back, and it goes back and forth during just before Christmas until New Year's, and it's really cute. The 12 Days of Dash and Lily follows their relationship a year later, and Mind the Gap, Dash and Lily follows their relationship even another year later. But this time we're in London, which is great. And yeah, I absolutely adore this book. I've read Dash and Lily's book of theirs a couple of years back the first time, and I think I reread it every year around Christmas or New Year's since. But it was the first time for me to read the 12 Days of Dash and Lily or Mind the Gap, which is a new release. But yeah, I really like it. I wouldn't mind some more stories about them because they are really cute together. But yeah, and they're short and quick to read, so it was perfect for Christmas time because there was a lot going on. So then I had to put in a really tiny quick book. Wie sagt man eigentlich Ich liebe dich by Michael Engler and Martina Matos? It would be roughly translate to how to say I love you. And it's the most adorable and cutest little picture book about a boy who falls in love with a girl and hasn't quite figured out how to tell her that. And then he figures out a way, and it's the cutest. And yeah, it was adorable. I gave it 4 stars. So the next book I don't have on me at the moment because I lent it to a co-worker, but it's called How to Be Ace, a memoir of growing up asexual by Rebecca Burgess, and it's a graphic novel memoir, and it's really great. It's telling about her growing up and how weird it was for her to realize everything was permanently thinking about sex and she was just not interested in, and how she tried to push herself and to make her do this stuff, but it never really worked for her. She always felt uncomfortable. And yeah, just her story of her finding herself, and it was such an amazing book, and I gave it 5 stars, absolutely loved it. Definitely going to reread that one. And the last book I finished was another audiobook. It was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, the last book in the Throne of Glass series. I won't give you a synopsis about this one, let me just tell you. This book is, first, very large. Second, absolutely amazing. I loved it. 5 stars. So yeah, those were all the books I read in December. I had an amazing reading month, and yeah, if you've read any of the books, let me know down below what you thought, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye!